いや、日本だとさ、まず、そんなのやらない。ゼロなの。もうゼロゼロ。ゼロポイントなんとかじゃなくてゼロ。
Welcome to the lazyfluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese, so that you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Yami.
And the topic of the day is American culture shock. Before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and drop a review at whatever platform you're listening on. We appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, American culture shock. Aimi is officially in New York.
Yay!
Congratulations,
ニューヨークにいますよ。はい。
We have been foreshadowing this event. Well, I don't know if event is the right word, but this upcoming trip to New York for quite a while. And it would be, I don't know, kind of anticlimactic if we didn't do an episode on it. So, Ayami, first impressions of New York.
First impression はね、まず、なんだろう、人がすんごい、多様人種って言えばいいのか、バックグラウンドがすんごく多様性があって、なんか、いい意味ですごい、なんか、心地いいっていうか、なんて言うんだろう。なんか結構アジア人でいるってことがさ、ちょっとやっぱり差別受けやすい地域とかあるじゃん。でも、ここだと本当になんか全然、なんか、睨まれるっていうか、なんて言うんだろう。あんまり見つめられたりもしないし、なんか、自由に生きていけるよね。っていうのは感じる。
I mean, so the diversity is something that you're finding, I guess, interesting from the point of being potentially discriminated, or are you saying like,
どういうこと
like, go ahead. Well, you're saying there's some places where Asians can be more discriminated against. I guess is it like, what part about the diversity specifically? Like, is it just seeing a bunch of different like types of people, or engaging and interacting with different types of people, or
どっちもだね。見るのもそうだし、あと、今病院でローテーションしてるじゃん。でさ、
yeah.
結構、その医者とその患者との会話に、結構中に入るんだけど、アクセントがすごいなと思って。いろんなそのエスニシティがあるから、やっぱりそれぞれその人、高校のさ、ちょっとアクセントって言えば癖っていうのかなっていうのがあるから、ちょっと英語はちょっと聞き取るのが難しいなっていうのは感じた。し、あと、これはちょっと病院の話になっちゃうんだけど、病院に翻訳なんて言うんだろう。ライブで、その電話かけながら翻訳する人がいるっていうのがすごいなと思って。日本で考えられない。
Wait, 翻訳 or 通訳？
ごめん、通訳だ。翻訳じゃない、通訳。
Okay, I was so confused. I was like, ライブで翻訳。I'm like,
違う、通訳。例えばさ、もう今まで見たのが、結構さ、もう、スペイン語を話す人がいるじゃん。スペイン語を英語は話せなくて、スペイン語しか話せない人が患者で、医者がスペイン語をわからないと。そうしたら、なんかその電話が、その病室にあって、そこでなんか、インタープレーターで、スパニッシュで、通話を通して、会話してる感じなんだけど、そんなのないよね。で、しかも、対応できる言語が、なんか何個あるか知らないけど、ヒンディー語とかもあって、今まで見たのがヒンディーとスパニッシュかな？
I mean, I don't know much about Hindi, but I will say with Spanish, it's pretty easy to do like one-to-one like interpretations of someone speaking, because the grammatical structures and sentences are almost exactly the same. Like the same, you say, I went to the store, you'd say the same thing in Spanish. And so you can literally just, as you're hearing it, you can just repeat the same thing back that they're saying in Spanish. And you have a lot of cognates and other stuff translates over. For when I've seen like live interpretations for Japanese is when it really blows my mind, because like, especially if you're going from like, you're doing both languages. So one person is translating both to the Japanese and also translating back to English, because a lot of times you have to wait till the very end of what somebody says before you know what they're going to say. So you kind of have to, but realistically speaking, you're anticipating what they're going to say by the beginning of their sentence. And then you can be wrong at the end if they decide to say like, instead of saying like, shita, they say masen deshita or something. Or like, そういうこと じゃないと思わなかった。You know what I'm saying?
付け足す感じだとね、ちょっとわからないよね。そこで
Yeah, when in English you can't do that as easily.
確かに。
But Japanese people really speak like that, right? Like I think we were talking about about this in our upcoming main channel video. But where it's very natural to say a subject or say a verb, pause, say the subject, pause, and then add some other information on top of that.
そう。それは結構、なんか私も結構するんだよね。なんか、後に結構つけたい。なんか何かを言い忘れたら、結構一番最後に付け足して、なんか追加する感じっていうのあるね。
Yeah. But going back into the New York thing, so we don't
め
get
ちゃ
too
めちゃある
far.
よ。もうなんか私こんな喋っていいのかって。
Well, I wrote stuff down. So okay, so safety. We had all these talk about safety, about how safe it may or may not have been. What is your impression?
なんかなんだろう。セーフティはもちろんさ、日本はさ、もう世界で一番って言っていいんじゃ、一番かな、一番ではないかもしれないけど、もうすごいもう。
I don't know where else would be. I mean, it depends. I guess there are other categories, in specific categories. I think they're very towards the top. Yeah.
スウェーデンとかは多分セーフティは治安はいいと思うよ。けどまあ日本ってすごい治安いいからさ、まあ日本と比べたら全然ね治安悪いと思うよけど、なんかそこまで言われてるくらいまで治安悪いかって言われると、なんか今のところはそんな感じてないかな。なんか全然最初さ、なんか一人で走りに行っちょっと危ないみたいな言われてたじゃん。言われてたっけ？
Well, yes, but it depends on where you're at. Like there are some places that I definitely would not recommend, like late night or I mean maybe even early morning before people are working, running.
なんか全然普通に朝とかもすんごいここの今天気がすんごい気持ちよくて、朝20から25度ぐらいで涼しい風があって、で朝走りに行くんだけど。
Translating. 70 degrees. I don't know.
ごめん。そう。まあすごい心地いいんだよ。そう。で、朝絶対一人で走りに行くし、なんか一人で走ってる人も結構いるし、あとね、セーフティ、まあちょっとなんか、怪しいなっていう人はいるけど、でも全然なんか、なんていうの、ビビってる感じ出さなければ大丈夫なんじゃないかな。今のところマンハッタン2回行って、まあもうシリーな感じなとこ行ったけど、そんなに、
I said Manhattan's pretty wealthy, right?
いや、結構でも、マンハッタンの中でも結構ちょっと、なんて言うんだろう、役やってる人いるじゃん。わかる？役やってる人たちに、なんか歩いてる時になんか声をかけられたりとかしたんだけど、でも、普通にちょっと無視っていうか、なんか、すれば全然まあ追いかけられることはない。なんかそういう人に関わると多分まあ悪いことが起きるんだけど、関わんなければ大丈夫かなっていう印象はあるね。
Okay, I have my next question. What about customer service? This is something that I mentioned that I prefer. It's weird, but I think generally speaking, I actually would prefer, aside from tipping, which makes me want to jump off a bridge every time. Anytime I've ranted plenty of times, but literally, I'm not in the minority, by the way, anymore. Now there were surveys conducted like this year, and now 70% of Americans apparently are finally on board with me, thinking that tipping is getting ridiculous. I've been like an OG. The first time I tipped, I was like, "What the hell is this? I already paid. Well, just have it on the menu. Pay your workers more. Don't make offset your prices to me." But anyways, how was your impression of customer service?
カスタマーサービスはね、私はここでのそのレジの人とか、入り口の人とかのなんていうの、まあちょっと一声かけるじゃん。なんか Hi, hello, what's up とか、what's up は言わねえか。まあ How you doing とかさ、結構レジとかでも言うじゃん。Good.
People say what's up. I remember I was told sup when I walked into the airport. I told you from the US. The worker there through border control just goes sup, and I'm like sup.
なんかね、そうなんか日々インタラクションできるのがすごくなんか心地いいっていうか、なんか日本ってさ、どんどん孤独化してる気がするんだよ。
Yeah.
レジでも何も喋らないし、でもここだとさ、たとえなんかディプレッション持ってたとしても、なんかそういうところでさ、人と関わるから、なんかメンタル的にはすごくいいと思った。で、
I mean, when we talked about third places, I really felt that in the U.S., where I told you, like, some of my close, I don't know, friends is the weird thing, but yeah, I'm pretty close with a lot of small business owners, and I really like going and chatting with them. And I think that's a really big thing when you actually have conversations. Where in Japan, I know this is a stereotype, but it is. I don't know what to say other than it's true. It does feel like you're talking to robots in Japan. Like I would feel like the experience would not be changed at all, 0% by
本当
replacing
に
people
ゼ
with
ロなんだ
robots.
よ、そうそう。
Literally zero. Like, because it's the same. Go ahead.
なんか面白い話があってさ、なんだっけな、あれ、そう、ドラーショップで、ドラーストリーってとこなんだけど、チェーン店かな。
Yeah.
そこでさ、私、レジで並んでたんだよ。で、前のオーナーの人が、まあ、いて、で、店員さんが、誰かこの杖を、忘れた人いますよっていうのを、放送してたんだよ。アナウンスしてたんだよ。それで、それ私の前のおばさんっぽい人が、それ私の杖みたいな感じで、それ私のって言ったんだよ。でもそのおばさんがよく見たら、それこれ私のじゃないわって言って、今日は持ってきてなかったんだみたいな。で、それで、私の後ろに男の人がいたんだけど、その男の人が、なんか、that's super funny みたいな、なんか間違いで、自分だと思ったら全然自分じゃなかった。
Wait, whose cane was it, ultimately?
いや、まだわかんないんだけど、誰かのを、なんか自分のだと勘違いして、今日持ってきてないのに持ってきたと勘違いしたっていう、なんか超笑える話があって、で、それで後ろに並んでた男の人と私が、面白い、今のめっちゃ面白いよね、みたいな話をしたっていう。
I'm wondering if this has happened to you, because I don't know if this is just because of my personality and I infect people I'm talking to, but something I've noticed is American workers are, and I totally understand and agree with them on this. They'll like shit on the place they're working on actively. Like I'll always go, like anytime I like go to a convenience store or something like that, I'll make, like I was getting I'm like renewing my passport, and I was getting my passport at this local like pharmacy, and just the image, I could have done it myself, but I was like, I just don't want to deal with any mistakes and like whatever. And so I'm like, they're like, how much it costs? Like $16. And I'm like, yeah, I did consider getting it myself, but like, I don't want to deal with mistakes. And he's like, yeah, I know $16 is pretty expensive. Like, and I get it. And like, I would totally understand people not paying that much, but at the same time, like, if we mess it up, then we'll do it for you again. And then he's like, is it okay if I just use my phone to take the picture? I'm like, whatever. At this point, it's fine. And he just pulls out his phone. I'm like, oh my God. But he's like, what? Ultimately, it's a software we have that really helps make sure everything's aligned. I'm like, yeah, I'm here already. But a lot of times when you go into any store, it's like, people who work for any, like, obviously small businesses is less common, but if they look for larger chains, the employees will just actively shit on the place they're at, and you like bond over, you're like, man, this is just so, like, America's fucked. I don't know if you felt that sensation when you're talking to any employees, but I feel like that's something that's very characteristic of a lot of American workers.
まあ、なんだろう。その、店員さんの中には結構ぶっきらぼうで、なんか、ムスッとして、next みたいな人はいるけど、なんか、まあそういう人全員じゃないし、なんか明るくて。で、お客さんも明るい気がする。なんか、知らない人によく声かけるよね。うん。
Well, it's not that people aren't happy, like, or it's not that people aren't like upbeat. I'm saying it's like it's more like a joking sense of, what do you say? Like, deprecation, like a joking self-deprecation towards like the workplace they're working at, if that makes sense.
まあ、とりあえずなんていうの、そういうソーシャルインタラクションはこっちはすごい気分がいいっていうか、明るくなれる感じがする。
I will say that is my favorite thing. I mean, if you like that vibe, you definitely love the vibe in Panama. In Panama, it's like, I mean, I think this is something oddity one of our frequent commenters mentioned, like in Israel, apparently people talk way too much for her taste. But like in Panama, it's totally like that. Like anytime you go anywhere, like anybody, even if you don't know them, they could be like your like sixth removed cousin, and then they act like you're their best friend, and then that you've come back at the end of a war, and they're like, hey. But yeah, that's a
みんな家族
good
みた
vibe.
い
I mean,
な。うん
yeah, I like the good vibe. Okay, so next question. So drugs. You don't really have that much passive exposure to drugs of any form,
そ
like
れが
weed or
ね、
anything in Japan.
Raised in Japan
how
は
was
ない
that?
ね。もうここだと、いや、日本だとさ、まずそんなのやらない、ゼロなの。もうゼロゼロ。ゼロポイントなんとかじゃなくてゼロ。で、
I do know some Japanese people have, by the way.
that's,
Just as a side thing.
that's
But they're like okane motchi
illegal.
and they got it from America. Yeah, I know it's illegal.
Yeah.
I'm
でも
just
こ
saying.
こだと本当に普通に、なんか最近よくっていうか、こっち来てから、友達と結構ハングアウトしてんだけどね。もう日本にいた時から友達で。で、そのフレンドグループで、なんか結構ウィード吸ってたりとかしてるんだよ。で、
You were telling me about is this the first time you've smelled weed
ああ、
before?
そう、ちょっと初めてかもしれない、ウィードの匂い。なんか、昨日はタイムズスクエア、タイムズだっけタイムズスクエアだっけタイムズスクエア。
Times Square.
そう。
Now I'm confusing.
どっちか忘れちゃった
I don't know.
そう、行った時にもう、普通に歩いてるだけでも、あ、これはウィードの匂いだってわかるもん。なんかね、タバコじゃないんだけど、私はタバコの匂いのが嫌い。
Yeah.
なんか、そう。で、ウィードの匂いが本当に歩いてるだけですんごいしてくるの。で、
I've always been so... Oh, go ahead.
ごめんね。で、その友達のフレンドグループがいて、なんか薬って言い方もダメだな。ドラッグの話とかになった時に、なんか普通に、ガミーの中に入ってたりとか、でもあれは、ウィードじゃないけど、ウィードじゃない。
It might be an edible.
そう、エディボル、
which is like something you eat, but yeah, some form of psychedelic or some low grade or some. There's a lot. There's a whole
thing.
I mean, it's a whole industry.
そう、だからなんかそういうのも普通になんか買えるし、なんかそこら辺のショップでもなんか堂々と売ってるからさ、びっくりしちゃったよね。
I mean, I always like, and this is something. Fun fact, just because I was talking to you about this earlier, but just as a PSA to anybody listening, if you are near Singapore, do not, under any circumstance, even accidentally, bring any amount of weed on you at all. You literally can and most likely will be executed for it. There's a case where that happened to somebody 4 months ago. And no, it's crazy. But anyways, in my head, the thing I always found ridiculous is cigarettes kill a shit ton of people. Like lung cancer. It's not even talking about indirect bad health effects for the children or the depressive cycles they can get people on, which then affect children directly and then probably lead to their suicide and or their deaths. Like there's a lot. And then alcohol. Alcohol is one of like the number one killers of people in the US, whether it be directly through alcohol poisoning, but also indirectly through killing people through car crashes or killing bikers like me because of I'm getting angry just thinking about I hate cars so much, you already know. But I'm saying people are totally okay with that. Like, yeah, no, that's fine. Weed though, you getting a little chill. I mean, I don't, to be clear, like, I'm not a drug guy, but I'm not against drugs at all. And I feel like it's just completely absurd. There's no basis for the amount of like this whole, it's a war on drugs, but I find it ridiculous. Like I hope Japan will come in line with the US in this regard, because I think it's just completely absurd to have the big, oh no, alcohol is fine because it's fine, it's just fine because. And then same thing with smoking. Like smoking is fine because it's fine because it's smoking. But weed, weed, no, you do weed will literally kill you. So I just find it insane. There's no. Yeah, go ahead.
なんだっけ、私なんかすごいさ、興味持ってさ、ちょっと調べたんだよ、そのウィードね。あれカンナビオイドだっけ、でさ、
キャナビス、
あれカンナビオイドっていう
カナビオイド、
そうカンナビノイドだっけ、そんな感じの、サウンドなんだけど、あと興味ある人は調べて、でなんか脳内の中にもともとなんか受容体があって、その生理的にもう体の中で作ってるのと、あと外因的に取り入れるそのウィードとかでね、やつがあって同じ受容体にくっつくんだよ、レセプターに。だからさ、そのなんて言うんだろう、タバコってもう外因物質じゃん。
外因 carcinogen?
そうだから、そうそうそう。
Yeah.
そう。全然関係ない。
Cancer causing.
体の中で作られてない。で、それの方がまあ絶対というか危ないと思うんだよね。もうなんていうの、ウィードを一回吸っただけだとさ、効果的には、ハッピーになれて、あとなんだっけ。まあ不安がなくなる。あとなんだっけな。でも記憶はちょっと覚えられなくなるのかな。なんか、海馬、ヒッポキャンパスにちょっと影響して、とか、あと、なんだ、ギャバ関係してて、なんか、リラクセーションか。そうそう。とか。
I mean, I guess I'm not really even focusing on like the health effects specifically, although there's some positive and negative effects. Like personally speaking, one of the reasons I don't like drink or do weed or other stuff like that is anytime I become basically if you become a person who does do it, then and you have even friends who do it, which I do have friends who do it, and it's like I said, it doesn't bother me at all. Anytime all your interactions, from my experience, people I know, become about the substance. It's like anytime you're hanging out together, you have to have alcohol. Or anytime you're hanging out together, you have to be high. And it's like, that's the whole point. And I have not seen a single friend group, a single one, where once everybody knows that everybody smokes weed, every single time that's the only thing they do. And I just find that so ridiculous. Like I'm just not that kind of guy. Yeah, no, and then it becomes a whole culture. And like, but the thing is, I think there's no reason. That same thing is true with alcohol. Same thing is true. I don't know with smoking, but I mean, the small friends I have that did smoke cigarettes, that would be their thing. They'd come together and they'd smoke in a corner, and then and then suddenly when smoking becomes part of the way you hang out, you're smoking way more often than you normally would be. And like I said, I'm not arguing for making this illegal at all. What I'm saying is, to me, they're the same thing. And if people are like already going to do it, I think regulating it would make it or regulating in the sense that having a place that is you can have a safe or way to consume it, and with a consistent actual drug, so that you're not dealing with like accidentally overdosing because it's like, what's it called? I think it's cut with something. It's called being cut with something, where like they'll put other ingredients in to make it cheaper to manufacture. But yeah, how's that? I'm wondering. So it's the first time you've been around that. Like, what's the vibe? The mood? Does it feel weird? You're just like, oh, people are just smoking? Does it make you feel like it's less safe?
Yeah,
because I know you have like a lot of Japanese like conditioning, right? You probably
すんごい複雑なんだけど、まずまあジャパニーズのペルスペクティブからすると、なんかもう個人的にね、もし体内に入るじゃん、吸ったりとかなんかでね、私自身が吸うんじゃなくて、周りが吸ってると自然に空気で入るからさ、それが体内に残って、まあ帰る時に空港とかでさ、なんか日本の空港だと絶対なんか犬とかのさ匂いでさわかるじゃん、麻薬犬みたいなやつでさ。
Yeah.
そこで引っかかったらまず医師免許はもうないよね。でプリズン行きだよね。そこがすんごい怖いっていうのはあった。
But is you're saying this would happen to you in Japan?
No, happen to you じゃなく happen to me じゃなくて、なったら怖いよね。
No, I'm saying if you were in Japan, you would get taken to prison.
じゃないのわかんないけど、だってそもそもだって。
No, probably. Yeah, you're right. But I'm saying in America that could happen if you're selling different kinds of drugs, which I think is still pretty ridiculous, but separate conversation.
なんじゃないわかんないけど。だから、それがちょっと心配。まあでも、だっていろんな人がね、アメリカ、日本、いろんな日本
Oh, I see. You're saying that you being around the drug.
そうそう。
You're like, the smell of it. それが
体内なんかあるとさ、自分がその匂いになるじゃん。それがさ、警察犬からなんかでさ、なんか匂い嗅ぎ分けられてさ、いや、あなた、麻薬やってるだろ、みたいな感じになって、で、それでなんか逮捕されるとかなったらすんごい怖いなと思って。
I mean, that is actually legitimate. I wonder to what degree that you wouldn't obviously be carrying anything, but you do get the smell. Like when I've hung out with my friends who are like smoking weed, you do smell like it.
だからさ、
even if you're not the one smoking it.
どれぐらいでその匂いがなくなるのかなと思って。
Well, I mean, definitely I feel like wash it out. But at some point you can't. At some point you can't. Like the weed friends just smell always like weed. And obviously cigarettes even worse, but
そうなったから。で、あとね。
Oh, so go ahead.
今日はちょっとチャリあやみになりますからね。そう、怖いかって言われると、まあ、ちょっ と怖いっちゃ怖いけど、でもそのフレンドグループで吸ってるから、この周りにいる人たちも吸ってるから、そんな怖くはないのかなっていう、そのなんていうの、バーが下がった気がする。その、周りで普通に吸ってるんだって思うと、今までなんか未知の世界で何も、なんか、なんていうの、食わず嫌いみたいな感じで、知らず嫌いみたいな。嫌い、なんていうの、わかんない領域だったからさ、なんか怖いみたいな感じだったの。けど、周りの知ってる人たちが吸ってるから、そんなに、あれなのかなみたいな。そう。
You'll find that applies to pretty much everything. Like that's the reason. Like although I don't like Singapore, I don't know if I made it explicit. I don't like Singapore mainly because they're like a top-down dictatorship that happens to be benevolent. But one of the things that they did like do in terms of effective policies, they like force a bunch of communities to be mixed like ethnicity based on basically they looked at how many percentage of different populations they had and they forced like every district in Singapore to maintain that, and it actually ended up solving a lot of the like racial tensions they had because you had to be around them. And I feel like you're probably experiencing that as well, because I know as a Japanese every Japanese person has subconscious bias towards anybody who's not white. It just is what it is. And I think that exposure as well is probably very helpful. But I do have a question actually. This is very completely unrelated, which is food and shopping, like shopping for food.
正直に言うと私日本にいてもそんなにね日本食あんま食べないんだよね。から全然
Okay, go ahead.
全然さなんか朝食にもヨーグルトとかなんか私はこっちの生活の方が合ってんだよね。しかもここのヨーグルトがすごいいい。ヨーグルトすごい。語彙力が。
Well, what about the yogurt?
いやなんか日本のヨーグルトってなんて言うんだろうね。ちょっとなんかみずみずしいっていうか、なんて言うんだろう。サラサラ系なんだよ。でこっちはなんかグリークヨーグルトっぽい。グリークヨーグルトじゃないんだけど、普通のノーマルヨーグルトがグリークヨーグルトっぽいんだよ。でしかもファット 0% でもそんな感じだから、なんか私のタイプもうタイプのヨーグルトはここにあるって感じで。
What about fruits? We've talked about how expensive fruits are in Japan.
Fruits, great, so great. 安い。
Specifically about the quality, because I know they're cheaper, but in my opinion, Japanese fruits taste better. But I want to hear your opinion about.
個人的に日本のそのフルーツは美味しいけど、それはなんか糖度が高いからなんだよ。甘いってことね。
Yeah.
甘くなるように作ってるから、その美味しいし、高いんだけど、私そんな甘いのがめちゃめちゃ好きってわけじゃなくて、私どちらかというと酸っぱいっていうか、そっち系のが好きだから、ここのなんかプラムとか、リンゴとか、桃とか、洋梨ってpear そう。
pear
とかすんごい美味しいし、量り売りで安いのがめちゃめちゃいい。
Also, this is something that you noticed a big difference, and I didn't realize. I guess I knew it, but I didn't think about it too much. Is that they sell fruits by weight in America, whereas they sell them by individual units in Japan.
そう、なんか1個
For all
1個単位
fruits,
なの。
right?
そう。
Yeah.
1個で100、今日本だと120円とかかな、リンゴがね。でいろいろもっと買いたい人はなんか5個パックで、600円700円とかあるんだけど、その重さで買うっていう概念がなくて、重さで買うって言ったらそのお肉とかなんだけど、フルーツはまずないね。野菜とかフルーツは。で
I think that definitely shows like the different, like how they view the fruit as part of your diet. Whereas in Japan, it's like almost like buying a cake, sort of. You know what I'm saying?
そうね、
like
デザートだよね。メインじゃないね。
Yeah.
それがいいのか悪いのかよくわかんないけど。
I definitely think having more fruits in the American diet would be better. Like, even though we have it available, it's funny. You were saying that you're like, oh, how is anybody out of like in bad shape in America? Because
そう。どうぞ。
because you have so many like healthy food options that are cheap. But the thing I was telling you is that the non-healthy food options are still cheaper. That's one thing. And two, most places aren't New York in the sense that you have such a walkable location. And what ends up happening in America is you have like a place like a Costco or these big stores or anywhere. I was literally talking to my mom about this. Like anytime she goes shopping, she buys way too much food. She buys food for like 20 people. And then she always says, she's like, what is it? I don't want to have to make multiple trips. And it's this whole thing because anytime you go shopping, it's like this huge thing. You have to like you get the car, it's a trip, it's a whole, like, it takes an hour. And then it encourages Americans to have these loaded fridges with food that never gets eaten.
奥の方にね、冷凍庫でね、丸まった肉が固まってるとかね。
And then everything becomes about maximum value. You know what I'm saying? Which then just leads you to getting the less healthy option.
あとね。
But, sorry, go ahead.
なんだ、0キロカロリーとか、なんか、ローシュガーとかの、ノーシュガー、ローシュガーとかの、なんか、ベバレージの、がその種類が豊富だなって思ったし、種類が豊富でプラスしかも美味しいっていう、それがいい、人工甘味料を使ってるからそれがいいことなのかよくわかんないけど、でも美味しいんだよこっち。日本だとなんかそういうのってちょっと味が薄かったりとか、なんかちょっとなんかちょっとまずいなっていうのはあるけど、こっちだとそうなんか美味しいよね。そう。
I do think that's actually one of the indirect benefits of diversity is because when you have such a diverse population, you actually have food for different palates. Whereas in Japan, all they do some things really well. They do things like potato chips, terribly. Cheese, awful. Pretty much any milk product, awful. What is it? Hold up, what's my rant? And there's some other ones that are really bad in Japan that I just think are trash. Oh, beans are weird. Beans aren't awful, they're just weird.
そもそもあんま売ってないよね。なんかソイビーンズしかないかもしれない。レッドビーンズもあるけど、しかもなんかちっちゃい缶でしか売ってないんだよ。なんかひよこ豆とか。
Oh, spicy food. Terrible. Like there's no unless you're eating Indian food. But then that's like, and you know that's my point. Diversity. You get the palate. That's like if for any reason, like to encourage immigration over any other one, you get banging food. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one of the best things. But I mean, this got a little long. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
じゃあもうちょっと話したいんだけど、いい？もうちょっとあと1個。
Well, what do you want to talk about?
なんか食堂とかでさ、これ病院だからってわけじゃないよね。なんかランチに山盛りのサラダを食べることがなんか結構普通じゃない？
Wait, what kind of salad?
なんかサラダのパックがあって、もう野菜山盛りで上にちょっとチキン乗ってたりとか、
Oh, yeah.
エッグとか。なんかなんていうんだ、日本だとわかんない。私のちょっとテイクだけど、なんかサラダ食べてると、なんていうの、今ダイエット中なのみたいな、そんな感じで見られるんだよ。別にダイエットしてるわけじゃないけど。なんかそういう感じ。
In Japan, you're saying?
そう。日本だと、なんかコンビニでサラダだけとか、サラダだけしか食べないと、なんか周りの人に、今ダイエット中なのみたいな。いや別にダイエットしてるわけじゃないんだけど、みたいな。あるんだけど、なんかこっちだと普通に食べてて、私サラダ好きなのね。普通にサラダが好きで、なんかそういうこともないんだなと思って。サラダ。
Yeah, I mean, I try to get myself to eat more salad. I have this kale problem, which I haven't talked about, where we have so much kale, but we planted a whole bunch of kale, and just too much kale, and it all grows back in a week and a half. So I'm trying to force myself to eat more, but we literally I cannot consume enough to make the kale go down. But that's a whole separate conversation.
待って、ケールのストーリーをちょっとシェアしたいけど、これはいいのかな？
You can do the middle section. How about the middle section? We'll talk about that.
楽しみにして。
戻りました。
We are back.
先週少しだけなんかジブリの話としたと思うんだけど、そのなんか半分のジブリの映画わざと見ないという話。でも、昨日ハウルの動く城の上映があったから一応なんか自分の部屋の中でそのなんていうかわざと映画見ないんだけど、なんかジブリの映画でなんか映画館で見られるなら、ぜひ見たいと思ったからついにハウルの動く城を見てすごく良かったと思った。なんかジブリのアニメーションのそう流動なんていうかアニメーションの流動さというのかな、わかんない。なんかうまくできてるし、それぞれの映画なんかゆっくりなんていうか なんていうか動物、なんか有機的な動きとか、その白の、なんか動物みたいに動いてるし、でもちろんなんか内容ネタバレしたくないけど、めっちゃ面白かった。なんか面白いというのは、その interesting じゃなくて、なんかファニーだった。
Did you like the soundtrack?
で、そう、まあ、何回ももう聞いたことあるんだけど、その実際に、これがその原因というか、もともとの、音楽の由来、
原曲
それで聞いて、そう、原曲かな。で、なんか懐かしいと思った。でも見たことないけど、懐かしかったと思った。で、何でしたっけ少しだけ、その何でしたっけ荒地の魔女。もちろんネタバレしたくないけど、荒地の魔女という人が一応いて、で、なんか、顔のアニメーションめっちゃ面白かった。わかる？
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah. A lot of wrinkles.
そう。デブのシワばっかり、まあ、なんていうか、顔はシワだけみたいなキャラクターいて、で、面白かった。で、何でしたっけ他の言いたいこと。もちろん映画館の人も、春の動く城まだ見てない人が結構いて、で、なんか、その最初の、なんか数秒、その映画の中で、そのスタジオジブリの、何でしたっけトトロの、わかるその青い画面で、トトロは
右側、at the beginning の、
そう、イントロみたいな感じで、それで、懐かしい気持ちでなんか溢れていて、これなんか、見たことない、ほとんどの、多分この10年間のジブリ映画だと、全部見たことある。なんか多分もう一度、ナウシカ、もののけ姫と、千と千尋の神隠しとか、私もうすでに見たことある映画をもう一度見たって感じ。でもこれは初めて、多分子供の時から、新しいジブリの映画見てないから、本当になんか、なんていう子供の頃の思い出が、戻ってきて、泣きそうだった。本当に。それで、すごく良かったと思った。
That's good. Wow. Seems like you enjoyed.
他のジブリの映画館で見れるなら見るけど、この多分2週間後にトトロとかあるかな。トトロと、
I don't know why they have Ghibli movies at this point. Like
人が見たいから。
No, like they're like probably 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right?
そう。ハウルの動く城は2004
2004年。Pretty old movie.
そう。
Yeah.
で、もちろん、千と千尋の神隠しは1990、いや、でもそれも2001年。
So 2001とか。Yeah.
そう。でも、とりあえず、よかった。
That's good.
ショーコクスは次のジブリの映画の話やったんだけど、まあ、ハウルの動く城、もちろん、それ見た方がいいと思うんだけど、もののけ姫も、時間あったら見た方がいいと思う。なんか全然その、ハウルの動く城ともののけ姫の印象は違いすぎるんだけど、どっちもなんかジブリの映画。
Yeah.
ハウルはなんか、ちょっとなんか、もちろんドラマとかあるんだけど、もっとなんか日常系だったと思った。なんか私が持ってた以上の、ただ生活が描写されている話。わかる？
Well, it's not like a typical daily like life.
そう。
But, yeah, some
一般人の
some parts.
生活じゃないんだけど、その、なんていうか、一日のジブリの中の生活はどういうような生活？
Yeah.
なんかそうちょっと説明してみて。
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
では、まあ、あいみはいろいろ話したいことはあったんだけど、何の話したいの？その、最初のセクションでの、ケールの話か。
So I have this story about Kale. So, since here, it's pretty cheap to buy vegetables, and I got this big pack of kale, and it was like this big. So, and then I have been having kale like for every meal. Yeah. No, like for 2 meals a day. And then someday when I went to the bathroom, you do number 2, right? Number 2.
そう。
And I saw this green thing coming out. And then I was like, what the fuck? Why is this so green? And then, like, since I was like, having, how do you say, like, how do you say? Like, your stomach is getting like crazy kind of feeling. So upset.
うずうずでしたっけ?
So, なんかちょっと気持ち悪い感じ. And so I thought I might like get some kind of like, like, how do you say? Like virus or like bacterial infection or something. So I Googled the reason for what's the reason for green number 2. And then it said, bacteria or virus or eating too much like
そこまで食べてるの?
How do you say like green or like vegetable? Vegetables. So I think that was from kale because like that
kale.
was just one time that I had green pea.
逆に私はそこまでなんか食べた方がいいと思うかも。なんかケールいっぱいあるから。でもそういう経験ない今まで。多分ケールは、サラダは1週間2回か3回食べる。食べようとしている。本当は1週間経っても全然なんか野菜食べない時期があるから。
逆にやば。I eat salad every day, yo.
そのせいでうんこは緑になってるんじゃない？
Yeah, but yeah, so I was shocked. But yeah, that was just one time. So yeah, I have no more number 2 now, so don't worry.
よかったね。
Yeah. And what else?
何でしたっけ？あいみはこのなんか実際に経験してないけど同じところにいたからこういう話に少しだけした方がいいと思うんだけど、なんか Twitch ストリーマーのカイという人、名前あいみは他の人から聞いたことあると思うんだけど、マンハッタンの中でなんか PS5 を無料で他の人にあげてる時期があって、それでなんか人が混みすぎてビデオとか見たの？そのマンハッタンの
No, I didn't get to see the video, but
めっちゃ混んでた。
Yeah, it caused the riot.
事故そう。
Riot. So. And then like thousands of people came to Union Square. And there was like police problem だったみたいな。で、あれも同じ。
多分なんか1マイルとかしか離れてなかったと思う。
I'm not sure. I arrived there.
マンハッタンはどれぐらい大きいかちょっとわからないけど。
at night だったから。I didn't see the scene in front of me だけど、I heard. Yeah.
一応なんかニュース聞いたときに、あいみはマンハッタンにいるんじゃないと思って、それで、もしかしたら PS5 を。
Yeah, I want to get that too.
これは見るセクションでした。Welcome back to the final section. If you made to the final section, that means you send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com with the comment, question, language related and or otherwise. And this week we have 3 comments, all incredibly long, but all very good comments. And we have a new commenter as well.
長いんだろうね。ありがたい。
Yeah, which is to say I can't actually respond to the full length of every comment. It probably would have taken, if I just read everybody's comments just alone, 15 minutes. So I'm sorry, but I did shorten them and hopefully reply to some aspects of them. But we have a new commenter called Extra Chipper. Thank you for being a long-time listener and for your first comment. And here is his comment, at least most of it. Been listening since the near beginning, but never commented. So now I'll write essay to make up for it, I guess. Here's my 2 cents on the alien stuff as a space buff and sci-fi aficionado. The Drake equation proposes a means by which we could determine the number of civilizations humans could communicate with in the galaxy. I could read this equation, but it's not, I'll put it on the screen. You can check out the equation. But basically what it is the variables, it's a bunch of variables multiplied by each other, and it goes N equals the number of civilizations which with humans could communicate. R equals mean rate of star formation. FP equals fraction of stars that have planets. NE equals mean number of planets that could support life per star with planets. FL equals fraction of life supporting planets that develop life. FI, fraction of planets with life where life develops intelligence. FC, fraction of intelligent civilizations that develop communication. L equals mean length of time that civilizations can communicate. So that was all part of the Drake equation. They always get multiplied to each other to figure out how likely it is for us to encounter life. We do not know all those figures, so there's no way to solve the equation accurately. That said, even if we assume the figures are all fairly conservative, we generally get a large number of civilizations we should be able to communicate with. The Fermi paradox then states, if there should be all these civilizations out there, why have we not detected them yet? There are a lot of responses to the Fermi paradox. You brought up the idea of what are called great filters, which prevent civilizations from advancing to the point of interstellar communication. Nuclear annihilation, rogue AI, everyone deciding to plug themselves into a simulation, life never going into multicellular. Other responses to the paradox are that we haven't been looking long enough, aliens don't communicate in a way we can recognize, aliens intentionally don't communicate because letting someone else know where you live is too dangerous. This is called the dark forest hypothesis, and many more. So I cut his this comment because he goes on. You can read the full comment on YouTube. It's really good. But he did make some shout outs to some different works with people who are into sci-fi, and he made some anime recommendations as well, which are good anime. So I'm going to read them now. Here's why I transition into shamelessly recommending a few of my favorite sci-fi stories. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky explores what kinds of aliens could develop if Earth life was left unattended on a terraformed world for long enough. Lots of fun speculative biology going on. Bonus. Most of the book is told from the perspective of sentient spiders. The Three-Body Problem by Xixing Liu. This is a trilogy that explores the Fermi paradox, the consequences of communicating with extraterrestrial civilizations, and the dark forest theory. It's cold, hard sci-fi with a healthy side of existential dread. Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang, which later got adapted into the movie Arrival, is another favorite of mine because it focuses on linguistics in the context of first contact with aliens. On the manga/anime side of things, I've generally found that my favorite sci-fi series don't focus too much on aliens. It's hard to beat Space Brothers and Planets, which when it comes to a blend of compelling storytelling and scientific accuracy, though. Thanks for taking the time to produce this podcast. That was a really, really, really long comment, but it was really good. But I do want to add one small thing onto it from Oddity, because I think it brought some statistics which were very great for the space discussion. And it goes as follows. From Steins Gate. Everyone who comments on this pod is so intelligent, thoughtful, and funny. It's so cool. According to Wikipedia, if you break down UFO sightings in the last 100 years by country, the US ranks first with 12,618 sightings. Canada is second with only 2,128. So somehow out of all the possible places on the planet for an alien civilization to present itself, they seem to favor the US by a factor of 6 compared to Canada, and by a factor of 2 compared to the 6 other leading countries on the list. I mean, I don't know, maybe with their incredible technology, they've been observing us from space and concluded that, yeah, if you go anywhere on Earth, it's got to be the US, because America is the bestest. However, what I'm betting on is that given US culture of libertarianism, governmental distrust, and conspiracy theories, this is a clear case of confirmation bias. Even if you try to take the statistical outliers seriously, the US is neither the most densely populated place on the Earth, nor the most urbanized, and it's highly doubtful that aliens have a concept of nation states. So why are they zooming in on the US so much? I think that might have been the longest comment I've ever read, or string of comments. So hopefully you audio listeners enjoyed those passages. They were very, like a lot of information was in there. But in short, lots of reasons why we haven't probably encountered aliens. On top of the statistics Oddity found, I found really funny, which is like, how do you heard about that? So the U.S. is in first place by like over double of what Canada is, which is so funny because Canada is like right beside us. Like you'd think sorry, 6 times.
大気のあれ的に行きやすいんじゃないのそういうの知らんけど。
What I think is like, obviously the US is big, but so if it's like, maybe you could make the argument, maybe the US is just so big that aliens have so much space to land. But then it's like, then at the same time, you're like, well, there's places that are much bigger than the US. Like I think, I don't know if Russia straight up is, but I think Russia might straight up be.
ロシアでさ、あれだよ。土地は広くてもさ、それを見る人が少ないから。
Yeah. I mean, maybe you could, like I said, Canada, only, majority of people only live in like small regions. And this isn't to say like that I think all these UFO sightings are, I think what Aditi said is very true about like the libertarianism and that making people think that, yeah, I found this and all that. And we have like, we have a lot of alien culture, so that probably plays into it. But at the same time, Canada, most people live in Canada like towards the edge, towards the US. And the vast majority of Canada is just kind of no man's land. And Canada has less people. So I don't know. I wonder if there's any studies talking about like the validity of a sighting going into like the numbers and going into all this stuff.
こういうさ、なんか研究してる人いないのかな？なんかそれこそさ、なんか宇宙なんとか学とかでさ、ないのかな？
Who would be paying for it though? I know the US government, I guess, has some program now where they have. 確
かに誰が払うかあれだけどね。でも誰かしらやってんじゃない？だってね、くだらないって言ったら怒られるけど、くだらない研究に対してもなんかお金払ってるところもあるし。
You know who I never hear talking about like space stuff? Japan. I know Japan has what's it called, the ISJ, or whatever. They have like a Japanese space program. JAXA. Yeah, and the only reason I know that is because of the recommendation that Chipper made, which is about Space Brothers, which Space Brothers is one of my favorite series. The main character, Nambamuta is one of my favorite characters. You can see actually Uchu Kyoda. I don't know if you can see here. There's some here. I couldn't get all of it, but I really liked some of the covers. But it's really good. I highly recommend it. There's an anime, like you said, as well as manga. I haven't seen Planets, but it's been on my plan to watch list forever. But yeah, the Space Brothers has a lot of like historically accurate stuff. It's like a little in the future, but not too far in the future. I like that made me think like, I'm like, wow, Japan, like there's an interest for space stuff in Japan, but I never hear any news about space programs. Maybe you know what I'm talking about? Like in the US, I hear about SpaceX is launching this rocket, or NASA. Maybe NASA doesn't really do as much now, but all the space exploration and satellite stuff in Japan, I never hear about it. I know they have a program. Like, what's going on with JAXA?
いや、やってると思うよ。けど、だから NASA が大きすぎて JAXA があんまり目立ってないんじゃない？でもなんかあれだよ、その月からなんとか帰ってきましたとか結構大きいニュースになるよ。この前なんだっけ、はやぶさじゃねえ、なんだっけ。何かがその月からなんか石を持って帰ってきましたとか、なんかのミッションを終えて帰ってきましたっていうのは結構ニュースだよ。
Maybe I just don't. That's my problem is like.
最近ないからじゃない。なんかそういうのが。
Well, my problem is, I guess, like, it sounds funny to say, or I don't know. You know, you like. Here's what I'm saying. You don't really like, you as a Japanese person don't almost consume any like Japanese stuff for entertainment, right? And
me specifically ってこと？
Yeah, you specifically, right? Like you don't listen. And like and people in general also don't listen. I think all younger people don't listen to the news much. And even a guy who's really Japanese, find Japanese news incredibly boring. Japanese, just being honest, Twitter, boring. Like straight boring. Japanese YouTube, boring. Anime, incredible though. So anime, so that's the most my knowledge of JAXA comes from anime, just because. But yeah, I wish I liked it more. You know, I do wish I liked it more, so I could give it more updates, but I just can't. It's god. You know what I'm saying? At least that's the one thing, like America, because everybody knows I'm not really a big fan of America at this point. But I will say is the politics are entertaining in America. You always have. You're exactly thinking that you were literally the first day in Manhattan, and you have one of the biggest. Like cities in the world getting blocked off because of influencers trying to get people PS5s.
Yeah. ね、すごいよね、そういうカルチャーは。
In Tokyo, that guy would be like, you know what I'm saying? In Tokyo, he'd get shunned everywhere, but everybody's kind of like, oh, that's kind of funny.
そう。なんか、やっぱりなんか全ての規模が大きい。待って、フードの時に言うの忘れたけど、もうサイズが大きすぎるんだよ、ピッツァのサイズでかすぎだよね。びっくりしちゃったよ。ピッツァだって1ピースがこんなぐらいあるんだよ。やばい。
Oh yeah, we have some big pizza culture.
2ピース食べるんでしょ、一人。どういうこと？
We have them bigger. There's this one called oh my gosh, it's like 36 inch. I don't know how big this is. Like
なんか飽きない。なんか美味しくても飽きない。 ていうか、お腹入らないわ、そんなに。
You know, you should check out cakes. You should go to a store that sells cakes and it'll blow your mind. Because I was telling you, they're like big in the US.
I've seen it in Costco で売ってる。
Oh, Costco? Oh, they still have but American size ones though? That's a real question.
だって Costco ってアメリカじゃん。日本でも Costco は。
Yeah, but it's a different market though. It's like how Book Off in America isn't like Book Off in Japan.
いや、pretty 同じだと思う。
Have you been to an American Costco?
うん、ロサンゼルスで行ったことある。同じだった。
Okay. So maybe that's interesting. They didn't change that. I mean, I'm assuming the food they sell is different. There's no way they sell the same
なんか
food.
寿司のでっかいパックとかもあるよ。日本のコスコだと。
Yeah, no, but it has to be more than that, right? Just sushi. That's not the only difference between.
いや、寿司以外にもあるけど、とにかくまあサイズがでかいのがコスコの醍醐味よねっていう。
It's funny. That's actually not. I mean, I guess Costco is known for being big. Like Costco sells these like massive like bulk. Like almost if you were going to. Do you remember like what was it like the what's the name of like the stores that sell for like restaurants and stuff in Japan? Like food ingredients. Yeah, Gyomu Super. It's like. Yeah. You that's like what Costco ends up being for a lot of like small businesses. But it's even crazy. You can get like these huge portions. Oh, I did want to make one comment from Shockox because that was a funny update about the video that we showed about the mascot. And so, yeah, something he said is, so I got flack for like 2 days because a figurative log doesn't exist. We need to do the next rendition and send that over. Also, I agree that hers was cuter. I don't know if she's going to try for less cute to be more accurate or just go with her style. She never draws cartoons anyway, so I think the style is still in flux. She mostly paints rainbow-colored animals and vegetables. I think we have some cupcake paintings on the wall too. We're a very food-driven family. Thanks for the yeah, we'll definitely if you do, send us over. We definitely, that was very enjoyable. And we had plenty of food talk this episode, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Amy, do you want to what's it called as your first time in New York? Do you have any closing thoughts on New York that I didn't ask you about that you want to mention?
I love New York.
Are you gonna get one of those like those cliche,
Nah, that's too あれだよ
Japanese tourist? Oh, cars. Hold up. Cars. I know New York isn't as bad, but what's your car experience so far? Have cars been annoying you?
もう運転が荒いし、もう道路がボッコンしててもね、本当に車酔いがすごい。なんか
People use their horns all the time.
ブルルルとかね。そう、もうすごいよね。びっくりしちゃった。うん。
It's like audio guns. That's how I use horn. Like it's like, you know what I'm saying, you're doing some amount of damage. You keep going around that. No. I was talking to you and I'm not even in there and the horn hurt my ear from the phone.
あとね、people は結構ペデストリアンズが結構Jaywalk するここ。
Okay, well, this is a whole other conversation. I almost want to do a video on it, but I will say that people are not wrong for jaywalking. Jaywalking was an invented crime by the United States to punish pedestrians, and it was lobbied for by car industry. So I will say jaywalking, I'm not even kidding. This is a whole other thing. We might do a whole episode on it, but jaywalking is not illegal in Europe. It's not illegal in many places in the world. It should not be illegal. The roads and the streets belong to people, and cars and industries made it illegal to blame them for getting hit by cars. So I will not. Jaywalking should be done by everyone, and I encourage everyone to.
日本だって結構みんなちゃんと止まるよ。まあ一部。
Yeah, I know. Of course, Japan. Yeah, but that's because they were brainwashed by the U.S. Honestly, in terms of the car culture.
Brainwashed っていうか。なんかルールはルールみたいな感じだから。
No, that's what I'm saying. A lot of the influence of the car culture in Japan is from the US, which is like the most cancerous thing the US brought to Japan. Or sorry, yeah, exactly. But yeah, anyways, thanks for the comments, everyone. If you guys want to read the full comments, I'd recommend checking out YouTube. I guess only one of them is there, but yeah, really good comment. Thank you so much. That bell means we reach the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us, another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and are just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com. We might respond in the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
And Ayami.
Signing off. じゃあねー。
じゃあねー。